All right, call the meeting to order. If you join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Going to take the agenda out of order so we can get Mr. Adams out of here. So, RFP for the parking lot. See, fine. Well, first I should say that the Facilities Committee made the recommendation, is making the recommendation to the full board to accept the bid from Mr. Fogg for $180,000. Fine.
I have to say that in looking over our policies and looking over your RFP, I believe that I have to strongly disagree that it's okay for Mr. Fogg to bid on this. I believe that we've been very careful not to, no school district employee is supposed to take any money. And I know in the past we've had board members substitute. I know in the past board members have been stipend. I understand that. And I don't think it was right then, but I don't think it's right now. And if I'm wrong, then I want to see the proof that I'm wrong. But in reading our RFPs and in reading our policies, I don't see how we can accept a bid from Mr. Fogg as a school board member. Even if he recuses himself, he's still profiting from taxpayer dollars, and that's against the RFP and our policies.
Well, can you give me a policy? Because I've looked.
It's conflict of interest policy.
I've looked and I can't find anything.
It's BCB would be the one that I think Bonnie would want to refer to.
And I would if I had internet, and I apologize.
Well,
I understand the RFP, but we did discuss that he was a private contractor, also bidding on a job.
I've looked and I can't find anything that prohibits. It says anything, I can't find it.
I look back to something as simple as the purchase of property. We didn't allow Joe to be the real estate agent because he was an employee. But then the board allowed, was it Liz Olympio, to be the agent for the closing? So I guess I need clarification, and I'm going to look to the superintendent for that, because I don't understand why it's not okay for someone why was it not okay for Joe to be the real estate agent on the purchase of the property, but it was okay for a board member to be the real estate agent on the parcel of property? I don't know if there's someone that can explain that to us, but I didn't think that board members were supposed to have a paycheck from the district and from the taxpayers. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and I want that explained to me. But right now, this sits very odd in my stomach, and I just really can't wrap my head around after reading the RFPs. I understand he's a separate business, but he's still a board member. And how can he, if he recuses himself, that means he recuses himself from the Facilities Committee for anything going forward, from going forward, and I just need that clarified for me.
But he has been doing that.
I understand that he's been recusing himself, but did you by any chance call our legal and ask her?
No, I did not.
Can you give me your interpretation of our policy and how that states whether or not he's capable of doing? Is it legal for him to do this?
As I said, I didn't. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Good.
I didn't ask for a legal opinion. I haven't in the past. When you look at conflict of interest, it's whether you have an employee of the district that's also taking funds from the district outside of their regular paycheck, and that can come into consideration when you have a school board member that would be accepting funds for a job. So that's how you can interpret the conflict of interest. The RFP itself states that as well, in a couple of the articles that are in there. So I've had this conversation with Mr. Fogg around that as well, and it's a decision of the board.
Are board
as how they want
members
to move forward.
considered employees?
Yes, you get a paycheck.
So that right there clarifies it.
Mhm.
We receive a paycheck, he should not, under our policies and our RFP guidelines, even though his bid is wonderful, and I'm not saying his work isn't great, but I need this settled for me because it just doesn't seem.
You need to read policy BCD, Bonnie, because policy BCD clearly
I have,
states
Mr. Fogg, thank you.
it is not the intention of the policy to prohibit school board members from taking part in the process. It's right in BCD.
Can I see that policy?
Mr. Gregory,
Yeah.
I just went to go get it.
You just want to go get it? Good.
Mr. Casco's after this handle, if you want to take a minute.
What do you want,
It needs to be taken care of.
should we have the superintendent contact the school district attorney, or
We may have to.
should we?
I really just think we need to, I need to know in my gut that we're not opening a can of worms. And if it's
Well, no.
told to me by legal counsel that everything is fine with the policies and with what's in the RFP, if our attorneys tell us, and I'm not talking Barry Christina, I want our attorney contacted.
Mhm.
If she tells us that it's legally fine for him to do it, I won't have a problem with it. But unless I get that legal opinion, my interpretation, and this is just my interpretation, is that it would not be okay. Do we have in the facilities, do we have the full package coming to us? So that we know what was part of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 for all of these?
No.
The Wakefield K.12 unit isn't in use anymore, is it? When you hit SAU 64 right now, it bounces you directly to that website,
To which website?
the old website. At least right here it did. I hit SAU 64 and it bounced me back to the old Wakefield. So I can't get the policy that way either.
You won't be able to get the policies. I tried and you can't get it.
It's just not working.
Not working.
How do the other, the two of you feel? Should we just have?
We need to call legal, because 22 is concerning to me.
What, 20?
22 in the RFP, all bidders must provide familiar disclosure and attach this form to the bid proposal. The bid proposal will be accompanied by a sworn and notarized statement disclosing any familiar relationship that exists between the owner and any employee of the bidder and any member of the Wakefield School Board or the SAU 64 superintendent. The school district will not accept a bid that does not include this sworn notarized disclosure statement.
So then let's have them ask legal.
I guess my point is, why did it get through facilities as far as it didn't have everything it needed? And did it have this one statement attached?
That's the first time I'm seeing that.
This is your RFP. This is what your facilities committee put out. So this is why I'm looking at this and I'm upset. It shouldn't have gotten to this point that he's being nominated to us without you all having all your ducks in a row.
The facilities committee did not put that out.
The RFP,
Put out by the facilities director.
but the facilities director gets approved by us, is that correct?
It's a standard RFP that's been out for, they
Not
have
the
used the same
RFP, no,
RFP.
they don't,
I can
they don't
speak,
bring the
I can
RFP.
speak to this.
Right.
The RFP wording hasn't changed. That's the standard wording in all of our RFPs. That wording for that RFP actually was generated through Wakefield that we currently use for the entire SAU. And I'm not sure how many years ago that RFP wording was developed and was brought through our legal at the time, and that's the standard wording that we've been using for all of our RFPs for at least, I'd say, 3 years.
I would say more than that. And I guess, so this is my concern, is that this says that it's not okay. And so I need that to be confirmed for me, because
Well, saying that he needs that
he
document.
needs to have all the paperwork, and we haven't seen all that paperwork. And I would think that if it was coming to this point, that you're proposing a bid tonight, that this should all be taken care of before this even comes to us. And I'm looking at this, and I can't make an educated decision on the parking lot expansion without knowing what items 1 and 2, and I can have that, but you should have attached the RFP so we would all know who don't attend the facilities committee, what items 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 were. And we're not gonna know that.
Speak to that, Bob?
Okay. Okay, so items 1 and 2, I have to flip back and forth here. So items 1 and 2 said using the schematic plan parking lot Rev 01, which the board approved the last time for us to go out to bid. Design parking expansion, plaza redesign, and modifications to the existing parking lot. Then the other part of that first phase, item number 2, is cut grade to rough level. Then 3 and 4 says install drainage, stormwater basins, electrical, and finish grade for paving and plaza as required per design. And 4 is pave, paint, striping, install lighting, complete plaza, and complete landscaping per design.
I did, that's what my problem is.
That's conflict, though.
I understand it's a conflict, that's what my problem is.
Can we just get legal advice on this?
I would, but, Bob, you just said, about the electrical, I believe we already, didn't we decide not to bury I believe we already decided not to bury the electrical.
Who decided? It hasn't come to any of us to do that yet.
Didn't we discuss that before? I thought we discussed that before.
We had discussed that we would use, because we needed to move telephone poles
Right.
anyway.
Right.
So we decided to reuse and add to that. So we would
Add
make-
one telephone pole instead of burying the
Right,
electrical.
so basically all that would be via PSNH. So it'd be a separate entity.
So, then, I don't have a problem, yeah, I want to make sure everything's done legally.
Can you
but
please
I-
confirm that and can we move it to the next meeting? Because right now, I can't approve anything.
But if we can save, in the process, try to save the taxpayers some money.
I understand that, but
Right.
saving it at our expense is not okay, and the taxpayers would not be okay with us breaking our own laws and policies.
Well,
I believe I
again, there is
just,
a conflict of
There's a
interest.
conflict of interest. In here, it states a conflict of interest,
I don't read, where, because I didn't.
right here.
Yeah.
Where?
Such a relationship will not automatically which part are you reading?
Read that part, Bonnie.
Yeah, read the whole thing.
The board may employ a teacher or other employee that if teacher or other employee is the father, mother, brother, sister, wife, this isn't going to have a problem, or brother-in-law of the superintendent or of any other board member. Such a relationship will not automatically disqualify the job applicant from the employee of the school district. That's not,
That's not, yeah,
There's a part in there that specifically states this policy is not meant to keep the
yeah,
public member of a board from
I
process.
don't have a problem with that.
Okay,
I think-
can we make a motion and go to legal then? Do you need a motion for
Can I
that?
make a statement for the record?
Steve, can I do a point of order, please? Specifically, it says in your policy, will not disclose, will not deliberate on the matter, will not vote on the matter, and will not attempt to influence other members of the board regarding the matter, which is what Mr. Fogg's trying to do right now from the audience.
That's not true.
You recused yourself, you're a member of the audience, you shouldn't be
And
speaking.
All right, we're
as a
gonna
bigger-
move this to legal and,
Steve, I have one thing that might help you, can I just read this? Please?
You're picking and choosing the parts of the policy.
Really, it
they'd like
might
to
help you.
present.
is it pertaining to this?
Absolutely.
Go ahead and read it.
Go ahead.
If you look at the bottom of your policy, BCB, you'll see a reference case of Atherton versus Concord. That case is referenced at the bottom of that policy. And it says in Atherton versus Concord, the basic rule is that a conflict of interest will be found when an official has a personal or financial interest in the outcome of a matter. That interest must be immediate, definite, and capable of demonstration, not remote, uncertain, contingent, or speculative. Atherton versus Concord. As the court in Atherton explained, the reasons for this rule are obvious. A man cannot serve two masters at the same time, and the public interest must not be jeopardized by the act of a public official who has a personal financial interest, which is or may be a conflict to public interest. That seems pretty clear.
Can you check that?
I have it on my notes.
Lee?
Sure.
Bobby?
I have it on my notes.
All right, thank you. Whose RFP is this? Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we tabling that, Mr. Chair?
Pardon me?
Are you tab- is it-
Yeah,
is it
we're gonna
tabled?
wait, we need to get an answer from legal on what's going on with that.
Till next meeting?
I don't see how we're gonna do it
Just ask
otherwise.
For the record, for the public, could you tell us how many bids you got and what they were?
We got 3 bids. One from Pioneer Mechanical for $216,000. One from Ralph Fogg for $180,000, and one from the Nelson Companies for $249,316.
And did that include all parts, A, 1, 2, 3, and 4? Or was
Yes.
it-
Peter?
Just want to make sure for the record that you're not going to take a vote on this evening.
No.
No, we just said we're putting this out to legal counsel.
Just wanted to hear it for the record.
All right. Back to the agenda.
You're doing this so he can leave.
I'm sorry. Actually, we got the, no, you can, we're forgot to, the lawn maintenance while Bob is still here, in case anybody has any questions, so we can get Bob out of here.
Is this the only bit we got?
It's the only bid we got.
Questions?
The snow removal ground season, the 8,400, that's the same as last year. The spring, summer, and fall, the 15,500 is the same as last year. Snow removal all roofs per event, I believe it was 2,000 last year.
Nope, 3,500.
3,500, I'm sorry. It's now 4,000. And snow removal sections A and F only per event was 1,200 last year, and it's now 2,000. And this is the only bid we got. And they've been basically doing it for 4 years as to what we were told. But
That's the questions I asked. They've been doing it for the last 4 years with no issues at all. They actually go up above and beyond.
anybody in the facilities committee recommended moving forward to the board.
Now, in this bidding process, you have to have 3 bids to be able to approve it?
You don't have to, no.
Okay.
It's a
When feasible.
When, yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve how-to lawn care and landscaping for, is this contract for 1 year?
1 year.
Yes.
Because it was 1 year, there was discussion about entertaining multiple years, but with the new parking lot, they wanted to wait to get that up and running.
Okay, so
And then put this out to bid in next year, including the new parking lot.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid for how-to lawn care and landscaping for a 1-year contract.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. So is this one? Is that what this was?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's for the parking lot.
That's what we just discussed first, right?
Correct.
We moved it up?
Right.
Right, so we can get Mr.
Yep.
Adams out of here.
Okay, just checking.
That was the only thing I wanted to interject. Is that mine?
Check registers.
Thank you.
I wanna look at this and, well, look at that and explain it. Am I missing something there or what? Can you explain what, how they're getting up to the 836? It doesn't, it's not making sense,
The US market orders.
Everybody can see the invoice.
Well, I don't have the invoice for this. It's right in the middle of the page. It's the first time I ever seen it.
Yeah, I'd like to see the invoice on that. Check number.
I see any red tags in there.
13,532.
Does that make sense to you?
No.
Okay. Why is that? Okay, so there's a complete oil service is $29.95. Rotation of tires. Can I shake them?
But that doesn't add up to 836.
Well, let me see.
Is that it?
I'm gonna have these prices.
Looks like it. Okay, explains it.
Yep. Whiteboard.
Which is a technological.
Like that. You can use the markers and stuff.
Was yours on there already?
Must be another one.
Two of them. Yep. Two whiteboard.
Wow.
And shipping crushes me.
These huge.
300. Half the price of the
When you're done with that one, you-
No,
That's crazy.
plus they had a credit.
quarter of the price of the day.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it's 829.
Half the price of one
Oh.
board.
$780.
but where's the other, you got what, 400 on the front here? Give
So
or
these
take?
things wear out and need to be replaced?
260,
Over time.
30,
I show up
Don't tell me you
822.
can't,
it's like $360 right there.
Yeah, but. see,
Well, you have to
gotta
count, you have
those
to add
on
all
that
of
side.
these too. You have to add all of these because the brakes were done.
Not blank.
And the
Makes it
hub,
difficult.
the bearings were done, the wiper blades were
These are all
changed.
parts.
These are all parts, so you have to add these in. These two go with
Okay.
this.
But how come you, and that's, okay, so they didn't subtotal the parts.
Well, they didn't subtotal the parts until you go to page 2. And then when you go to page 2, you have the credit plus the difference.
Add those two up. And then the discount.
Shop supplies are 7.8, and then minus.
Yep.
I get it, it comes out right.
Yep.
How about this one?
Really?
Yeah, really. They're, looks like you got,
Okay, big boy, give me a second.
but you
Okay,
have,
you have one.
okay, but you see you got a 7-inch bongo,
Yep.
and then it's a 7-inch bongo here, and a 7-inch
Okay, so one of the, you have to understand that this is your purchase order,
I get that.
this
but
is your receipt,
I
your
just wanna make
invoice.
sure we're not being
Okay,
charged twice on
I
it.
don't know, I'm pretty impressed
Yeah.
that we have bongos in the building myself. I like that. all
You know,
about.
when you hear those kids playing.
I
and
love
did
it.
the
It's
other
all
night.
about
Oh,
music and
man,
movement.
that was
It's
so
awesome. I
funny.
love it.
The girls love those.
Yep.
Should bring some in.
Once they get it down, that would be awesome. I would love that. You're being facetious. I'm being truthful. 608.
Drum set.
That was totally my favorite part of the open house.
So the front page and that, right here, get the whole total those two.
That's why we're not getting double charged, because it had them on multiple pages. Bob, can I have those?
The check was 608.32? Yeah, they're fine.
That's right.
Okay. It kind of looked like they were in there numerous times.
Does that help?
Right back up here.
I have no idea. No idea.
Check.
Is this all of them? Hmm? There's more than this, sure. You didn't sign this,
No?
Mr. Olet.
Nothing.
What you know? What'd you say?
You didn't sign this one.
Even though it's tagged, if it doesn't have a signature line, it's
You
not.
don't need to sign.
Put that over there, please, with the rest of them.
Oops, I'll find 35, maybe. 32. Oops.
We all set in the manifest? If so, can I have a motion to approve the manifest,
I'll make a
please?
motion to approve the manifest.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes of the last meeting.
Do you do the SAU withdrawal
Those go to Sue.
minutes, or is that just
Those
for
are in there.
They'll approve those at their next meeting, but
Yeah,
that's just FYI.
I believe so, because the committee approves the committee minutes.
On that withdrawal committee meeting, page 2, second paragraph up, says there is a parcel of land on Wallace Hill that abuts the school. I think that should be changed to Delco Circle.
What page are you on?
Page 2 of the packet,
Of the withdrawal.
on the withdrawal
Okay.
minutes. There's a parcel of land on Wallace Hill that's, should be on Delco Circle.
Delco Circle.
Uh-huh. And it does not belong to the school.
It does not.
district.
Okay.
Not that that's part of the minutes, but just what needs to be clarified is Delco Circle.
I have one thing, Mr. Chair, as well.
Yeah, good.
In your title, it should be Wakefield School Board instead of SAU Withdrawal Subcommittee.
Okay.
It's not a standing subcommittee, it's the board discussing SAU withdrawal.
Good point.
Okay.
We on to the Minutes for September 17th.
To that, wait a minute, to that point, then we could, the board can approve.
They're board minutes.
Okay.
So, why don't we do the withdrawal?
I make a motion to do the SAU withdrawal work session as amended.
Second.
And that's September 11th,
Yes.
2014. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now September 17th.
Page 5 of the packet, page 3 of the minutes. Second paragraph down, third line in that paragraph. Sentence begins, "This means that," whither, should that word be either? Page 5. Or should that be whither? Or whether, maybe. I thought it was either. This means that either the community of Wakefield will be paying taxes twice, or students will suffer the consequences when important programs are lost.
For you. I have it here.
Either sounds right.
Should be either.
Can I ask for
That's
another
my typo.
Good.
On page 6 of the packet, 4 of the minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down, JFACC. Third, fourth line in that. It was found that the change had been made. Actually, we found that the change had not been made. Superintendent, the word superintendent was still in there. And at that meeting, we asked to have the change made to that policy twice. Both times inserting Wakefield School Board in the spot of the superintendent's, the wording was superintendent, we had asked to change it. I brought those minutes with me. We had found that actually it should have been changed twice, it had only been changed once, and it was the second time the superintendent had been mentioned. Here it is. The FACC, page 14 of that set of minutes.
It's on the bottom again, Ralph, I think.
Yeah. Superintendent's Wakefield School Board approval. So it had been changed at that meeting.
Yep, you amended it at that meeting,
Yeah.
and that amendment was approved, and you updated the policy.
Okay, but part 5 of that had not been
Correct.
amended at that meeting, so that was struck. At this meeting, we're speaking of the minutes. I knew there was 2 spots in the policy.
Right.
And we searched and we found it in part 5,
Okay.
approval by the superintendent. So at that meeting, we struck it, we inserted Wakefield School Board, and we approved the policy as amended.
Correct.
So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't
Okay.
reflect in the minutes that the search was in vain.
So you approve the policy as amended, not as written then?
That's correct.
Okay.
Anybody else? not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 17, 2014?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry,
abstain,
I'll
Maureen.
abstain too.
I abstain also.
Is there any reason why we can't do the non-public now? And if not, can I have a motion to approve the non-public of September 17th?
I make a motion to approve the non-public minutes of September 17th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain?
Aye.
What?
Just for clarification, I voted in the affirmative, Beth. I didn't mean to,
Where was that?
just now on the motion to approve those minutes. I meant to.
Mhm.
He had said abstain, and then I said aye, but I didn't mean to.
Yeah, but the
abstain.
first one you abstained on, the
Yes.
full thing, and the non-public you agreed to.
Yes.
Okay, that's why.
Thank you.
You will.
Public comment? Mary?
I would like to thank the school board members for doing the job that they were elected to do. You listened to parents when they wanted better standards for their children. It would have been helpful if teachers and staff attended the meetings when the school board was discussing Common Core standards, but no one but the administration offered any input. The school board first organized a parent forum to listen to and inform parents about several school issues. Concerned residents of Wakefield also held a meeting to discuss Common Core standards, where 3 state representatives came to speak. They also asked Dr. Stotsky to come and speak to staff and parents. These forums were organized by the school board, not the administration. I know some parents who work as substitutes that did not attend the meetings for fear of not being called to work. Also, a few teachers who do not agree with the standards will not speak out for fear of losing their job, since it is the administration and not the school board who determines which staff members fit well within the Paul School. The school board has always supported the decisions made by the administration regarding staff members. As far as the terms dumbing down and data mining, these words have been used to describe Common Core standards in 90% of the articles written about Common Core and are not the members' words, they are just repeating what they have read. I would be more concerned when the administration wants the staff to continue with the Common Core standards with or without school board approval. And it seems we have wasted a lot of money paying for a curriculum coordinator, considering we haven't had a curriculum for the past 20 years. Those statements undermine the work teachers and staff are directed to do. The report cards, for example, were brought in on a trial basis but continue to be used without approval from the school board. The majority of parents wanted to stay with the old report cards, and the board listened and voted with the parents. A new program should be brought to the board before the work is started on it, not after. Parents should also be informed of the new programs, since it is their children who attend the school and live in the community. When the administration states that a program will not affect the community, they should make sure they follow their own rules. Hazel McBrien Nursery School is now suffering because of this decision made by the administration. That creates mistrust with the administration, not the school board. Parents want new programs that will help children better their education, not just sit them in front of a computer, allowing less interaction with their teacher. We do not want to be taking federal grants because that allows the federal government to control what is taught and not the teacher in the classroom. The federal government has a $17.5 trillion deficit. They don't have any money. Our grandchildren's grandchildren will be paying for it. Parents would rather have our taxes raised, have more control about what their children are learning. Parents also realize that a teacher's job does not start or end with the sound of a bell. We also know that you work hard in continuing to better your own education to benefit your students. Parents want the best education for their children using the best standards. And if you are too embarrassed to be using better standards, then maybe you should not be working at the Paul School.
Thank you.
So thank you, school board. And
Thank you.
teachers.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I just have some concerns about, at the last meeting regarding the changing of some of the policies for the Right Beginnings program. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy Blackwood. I do own the Pine River Pond Country Daycare. That's not why I'm here tonight. Some of you probably don't know, James and I, my husband and I, have a child with special needs. She attends the Right Beginnings program. And I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand why it needs to be changed. So that's, the program's set up right now that it doesn't take more than 12 children. It's considered a special education, early childhood program. So if I understand what was in the last meeting that I watched, it's going to gear more towards just an early childhood program. So my concern with that is that right now, how it's set up in the program is that there is no more than 12 children in the classroom, less than 50%, I believe, typical and untypical. So there shouldn't be more, more typical or unidentified students in the class. The class isn't mixed right now between 3 and 4-year-olds. It goes by, I guess, what you guys go by the school year. I'm assuming. So there are like some 3s and some 4s, but from what I was understanding, that it would be a mixture of like 3s, 4s, and going to kindergarten next year. So you're going to take that, and then you're going to change it to something that is just completely different. I just don't understand why. Like, the program's working. It's done wonders for my daughter. She started the program in November of last year. She didn't do well in a larger group setting. So, she left our school to go there, and it's just done wonders. And I don't understand why you would take these children that already have, a setback and are already struggling and change the program on them. It's just not fair. And, I just don't get it. And I don't know if there's a reason, behind it, but, we went to the open house last Wednesday. I've never seen such a happier group of parents in that classroom before. And I've been in education for 14 years. Those parents are beaming with happiness with the program. And to take something and change it, my daughter's not going to do well in a class of 15 with mixed, a bigger mixture of, in with identified and unidentified. And I'm a, educator. I get inclusion. I have friends that are in, have children in the program, and I get it, I'm not going to say that I don't, but there has to be some type of balance. The program, when I met with the team of special, educators from Right Beginnings, I was sold on the program because it's a program because it has all these wonderful things with small groups, and we can do all this and we can do all that. So you're not going to be able to do all that with this new program. I just feel like here's the idea, and you're just going to roll with it. Like, I just don't, I don't get it.
So I would say that there's actually very little, there's not really that much change to the program. The changes that are recommended was a request by the board to consider tuition. So we have a tuition policy. We did increase it by a day, so it's a 5-day-a-week program. The multi-age is because this August we were faced with having no room for the unidentified students unless we put, no room for the identified students unless we put the unidentified students on a wait list, because we had 7 unidentified students that were coming into the program. So we wouldn't have any, we had minimal opportunity if we had referrals throughout the year. So that change That's a bit what drove the conversation around multi-age. Because if you have a multi-age program and your 3-year-old program is full, and you have a 3-year-old in December that's referred and identified, then you have to consider a second classroom for the 3-year-old, if your classroom is full. The early childhood is because the most recent recommendations and regulations in programming for ages 3 to 5 are least restrictive environment. We did not have a least restrictive environment. We had a environment where we had 1 or 2 unidentified students last year. So by making it an early childhood, we're looking at a 50-50 ratio. So we are allowing a least restrictive environment. That's the basic changes.
Can I speak now? I've never been before, so I don't know what's okay and what's not.
I just have to say that, talking with Mrs. Twombly, the reason we had such a jump in typical students is because there was no tuition. Once there's tuition, children with special needs will not have tuition, but children that are typical will, and those numbers will drop. And this is something that we're looking at and trying to make the best decision. So we thank you for coming in, because your input means a lot to us. Because when the Bright Beginnings program started, it was introduced to us as a special needs. We wanted to give early intervention help so that when they got to kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, they weren't struggling. And if you're a parent and you have those concerns, then that's a view that we don't see from this side of the table. So we thank you for coming in.
I guess what I understand what you're saying, but I guess I'm confused because you have to have a special education program for your district, correct?
We have to provide special ed programming for 3 through 5.
Okay.
So there was an option on the table of providing programming in the local preschools and having the services provided by a special ed teacher and related services going out into the local preschools. That's an option that SAU 9 up north does. That's not an option that was considered, but it was on the table. The law says that if we have a program, it needs to be least restrictive environment. So in order for it to be least restrictive environment, you have to have typical peers in with your non-disabled. Having 7 disabled, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong words, and 1 typical is not a least restrictive environment. It's a token non-identified student. It's not a least restrictive environment. And the best practice for educating our students with disabilities is least restrictive environment to the best of our abilities. So that's what drove the recommendation that we made.
I just want to make sure that I understand the laws correctly. So for the Bright Beginnings is considered at the moment an early childhood special education program, correct?
It's a special education program.
Okay. So
it's approved by the DOE as a special education program.
So
it was approved at the time that the Wakefield community was promised that there would be nothing but disabled students in the program. That we became a competition to your local preschools last year. We don't want to be a competition to your local preschools. We want to partner with your local preschools. So that's what's driving this change, these changes.
And I'm not here today as a business owner. I'm here today as a parent, a taxpayer of a, I have a child with special needs. That's what I'm here for.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's over there. Like, I'm not, I just want to make sure that I understand. So, Bright Beginnings is an early childhood education program, correct? So, in order to have that be considered that, you can only have a maximum of 12 students in the classroom, correct?
For special ed, for New Hampshire Department of Education program approval, the special ed program can have 12 students.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand everything before I move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then, So, and then it has to be less than 50%, correct? So you could have, say the class has 12 children enrolled, so 7 would be identified and 5 would be unidentified, correct?
No, it can be 50-50.
It states right here that an early childhood special education program shall be considered a special education program when it includes less than 50% children without disabilities.
That's an early childhood special ed program. For the New Hampshire special ed approval, it can be 50.
Okay, that's what I was just trying to ask you. What is Bright Beginnings
Bright
considered?
Beginning is currently a special ed program approved by the Department of Ed as a special ed program.
Okay. So what are
So we could have 11 students that are identified and 1 student that is not. But we can have 50-50 as well as a special ed program.
Okay. My concern is the class sizes. That's my concern. So what are you proposing to the board that you would like to see happen with class sizes?
The recommendations for an early childhood program are 15 to 17.
Is that the proposal that you're bringing to the board?
We capped it at 15.
Okay.
We can cap it at 12 if that's what the board wishes. That's just the conversation we had. We capped it at 15.
And the reason for the change is, again, if you don't mind saying it again, why you feel the program needs to go from an early childhood special education program to just an early childhood program?
The main reason is to assure that we're providing least restrictive. An early childhood program, however, wouldn't have a special ed teacher. We will continue to have a special ed teacher and related services. The main reason is to provide a least restrictive environment for kids.
So, in your proposal, how do you plan on, how are you going to pick those students?
The policy outlines the way in which the non-identified students. I don't have it in front of me.
It's a lottery.
It's a lottery.
It's a lottery. Okay. So, does anybody know? Is this just the beginnings of this? Okay. So no one has really delved into it much further. Like, do you know how many children you should be expecting in the 2015-2016 class? Okay. There are about 67 births in the town of Wakefield. Okay? So you've got some that move, you've got some that come. You know, when my daughter started the class last November, I think she began 4. I think she was like the 4th in the class. She ended, I think there were like 8. So so you're thinking maybe 15. So 15 in the morning, 15 in the afternoon. So that's 30.
I would be surprised if we had 15.
Okay.
My guess is the numbers will stay pretty similar to what they are.
Okay. But what about those other 37 children that don't get picked out of the hat? I'm just throwing things out there. This is the beginning.
They would choose a Hazel McBrien. They would choose a Pine River Pond Country Daycare. They would choose one of the other preschool programs in the area. The other preschool programs, parents are so diverse in what they want for their children. Some want a 3-year-old program 2 days a week. Some want 4 days. Some want 5 days. 4-year-old, parents want different choices. Some use preschool as, a babysitting kind of a thing, and they just want socialization. Others are looking for colors, letters, numbers, being able to recognize their name. And so every parent chooses early childhood education for a different reason. And I think that we're just in the preliminary stages right now.
And that's what
our concern, to be quite honest, is I'm worried about Hazel McBrien. And I voiced my opinion that I really wanted to look and see what we could do to partner with them rather than, but I think the tuition rate that we would be charging, I think is, it's going to be a parent that wants their child in a strong preschool program.
And I'm just here because I want her to get the best that she can get.
Absolutely.
I have to be your advocate. No one else is going to do it. That's my job.
Good mom.
And, the program that they provide is wonderful. Like, she's soared. She's doing excellent. And the fact that it's going to change, that just makes me nervous. She's not going to do well in a class size that big. She's just not going to do it.
in a class size of 15, you don't think that your child would succeed?
Last year, before she went to Bright Beginnings, she was with us, and we had a class size of between 10 and 12, and I get inclusion, and I get what you're saying, and I get that. I'm an educator, but I'm just scared for her. I'm just scared that, you know, I don't want to get into what her IEP is because I don't. It's
No,
you know,
we don't need to know that.
I'm nervous, and I think it's a huge thing, you know, that everyone has to look into. I think, you know, I don't know when you guys were thinking of, is this something for the 2015-2016 school year, so it's nothing's going to happen in the next couple weeks, months?
In terms of programmatic changes?
Yes.
No, and let me just assure you that any programmatic change that would be made would be with the student that is identified in mind. There will be no changes to the special ed programmatic pieces to the program, other than providing a 5th day of programming for students. That's what I see as a change for the students that have been identified. We are focused on the purpose of this program, of this preschool, is to get our special ed students the early intervention they need. So when they enter kindergarten, they're more prepared. That being said, all of Wakefield preschoolers enter kindergarten together. So we really need to partner with the other preschools in town and not be considered a competitive preschool.
Does anybody have any, like, I'm just fortunate because I have someone who is very involved and knows about the things that are going on. So I probably wouldn't have known about the policy changes and everything. Is there any way, any suggestions to get more? I'm just thinking, do the other parents of the Bright Beginnings program know about the changes? Do the other people in town know about these things? Like, and I'm sure you guys always, you know, are concerned with public turnout and things like that, but is there any way that, you know, we can get more people to know what's going on? I mean, I feel like these are huge changes, and maybe the parents of the identified students, the parents could get together and voice their concerns.
The policy hasn't been approved. It's going to be read tonight for the first time, and that's a tuition policy. That's the only change that's being put on the table right now. We have a preschool task force, and I would encourage you to become a member of it, because any kind of programmatic changes that we'll make for the preschool for next year will be through that task force.
This is the first I've ever heard of it. I didn't know about it when
we've met twice. We are working with Parent Information Center and the Department of Ed. So those are the two. You know, I would be happy to have you on that.
Is that maybe you could put something, ask Miss Judy to put something in the newsletters that go home to all the parents, to get more parents involved, so we can get more people to the meetings, get more people involved and know what's going on with the children's education?
Sure.
Is that you know, so we can all be on the same page and figure things out?
Sure.
And I guess you can't force people to come to the meetings, but we can do the best we can to get the people the information.
You mean board meetings?
Board meetings, you know, yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, I had mentioned to a couple of people that have children in the program and they didn't really know anything about it, really. A couple of them just knew that there might be some tuition changes and stuff. But as far as gearing the program more towards an early childhood program than a special education program.
That's really not what it's doing. We're not gearing the program towards an early childhood program. We're making the preschool program, the Wakefield Public School preschool program, a least restrictive program for our preschoolers. And that is where the early childhood concept comes into play. It's not, the only change is tuition at this point. So you're right, I guess people need to be better informed, because the only there's no programmatic change other than the 5th day.
I guess I'm just confused, because I thought that an early childhood special education program was considered that if it had less than 50% with disabilities. This is why I'm just confused, and that's what I'm confused with. So when you do the class size of 15, so are there going to be 8 identified and 7 unidentified?
There will be, we are leaving 6 spots open in the fall, so we won't add any more than 7 unidentified in the fall, so that we have openings. Typically by December, January, my experience is that we've had our referrals and identified students, and we know what our numbers look like, but we need to leave enough spots for our identified students. But I don't believe that a preschool with 11 identified and 1 unidentified is in the best interest of the students with special needs.
And I understand that. I'm just trying to make sure that we keep a balance, and that's what I'm here to
And that's
to
exactly
talk about tonight.
what we're
and I'm not saying that
trying to
you're
do.
not. This is new. This is something you guys, it's going to take a long time for you guys to work through this and figure this out. It's a huge undertaking. And
Not really. There's not as many changes being made as what it appears is out there.
we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this.
Judy?
Mrs. Kevler said at the last meeting that she was going to change the program to an early childhood education program to allow more flexibility, which would allow more than 50% non-disabled students. As this would no longer be a special ed program, it would not require approval.
It wouldn't, but we can go for approval. And Mr. Fogg asked me if we would go for approval, and I said yes.
And a special ed classroom, I believe it's 1110. No, 111310. Give me a second. 111310D. The following shall apply to early childhood special education programs. An early childhood special education program shall be considered a special education program when it includes less than 50% without disabilities.
Where is that? Is that in the
That's
New Hampshire?
1113.10D1.
The goal is not to have less special ed students than typicals.
I just have a statement I'd like to read, if that's possible, regarding this subject. You get 3 minutes, right?
All right.
You get 3 minutes, right?
Good.
I'll try to do it in 3 minutes. I would like to offer some input on the proposed changes to the Bright Beginning Special Ed Preschool Program. The program is a successful, approved early childhood special education program for up to 12 3- and 4-year-old children per session with special needs located in Paul School modular classrooms. New Hampshire Code of Administrative Rules 1113.10 D1 states, and I'll say it again, an early childhood special education program shall be considered a special education program when it includes less than 50% children without disabilities. Concerns were raised to a previous board that parents were trying to get their children enrolled in the program to avoid the expense of private preschool. The board decided to limit the number of non-disabled students at 2 or less, and requested the special education director look into the possibility of charging tuition for non-disabled students for the following school year, so that some children were not getting the unfair advantage of free preschool. At a previous meeting of the current school board, I asked if they were now charging tuition for these students. As special ed directors had changed in the meantime, the board said that they would have the new director look into it. Simple question, 2 students, can and will you charge tuition? I was quite surprised at the last school board meeting to hear the special ed director come back to the board with several recommendations to totally change the program. Her recommendations included the following: change the program from an early childhood education program to allow more flexibility, which would allow more than 50% non-disabled students. As this would no longer be a special ed program, it would not require approval. Increase the program to 15 students per half-day session with 2 sessions. multi-age classroom. Charge $250 per month to non-disabled students entering after November 1st. Grandfather current children with no tuition. 4 to 8 days a week, increased to 5. Continue the program now with 15 children, still with 1 teacher and 1 para. And provide transportation in the 15-16 budget. And a lottery system for enrollment. Those were the specific changes, the recommendations that were made. I find these changes to be unnecessary and wrong on all levels for the town of Wakefield. Level 1, and most importantly, the children this program was meant to serve. The program will no longer be an early childhood special education program, as it was designed to be to serve the 3 and 4 year children, the 3 and 4 year old children in need of services meeting the Ed 11-13-10 Code of Administrative Rules. Larger class sizes with the majority being non-disabled will take away quality time for the children this program was designed to meet the needs of. Level 2, the children the new program hopes to serve. If a public school is going to offer a regular education early childhood program, it should be free and open to all children in that age group. The town of Wakefield town reports show 67 births of children in this age group qualified for the 14-15 school year, 72 for the 15-16 school year, and 64 for the 16-17 school year. This does not take into consideration any children that have moved into Wakefield in the last 3 to 4 years. This would require at least double the space, staff, materials, and supplies. It would be an unfair advantage to offer less than 50% of the children admission to this program. A child should not have to win a lottery to be afforded a public school education. Furthermore, I can only find laws regarding lotteries for public education under charter schools and open enrollment schools, of which Wakefield is neither of. Level 3, the taxpayers. It is only required by law to pay for early childhood education for children in need of services. Taxpayers already support children birth to 5 years old through taxation for the federal and state Health and Human Services Department. There are already providers of this service in town that do not require a support through taxation. If the school board wishes to fund this program, it should be through a warrant article put on the school ballot for the voters to decide, as was kindergarten. Level 4, the current private providers of this service to the town. Hazel McBrien Nursery School and the local daycares. Should a publicly funded government entity, the Wakefield School District, be in the business of competing with private businesses and 501(c)s? Hazel McBrien Nursery School has been serving the children of Wakefield for almost 60 years and will be the most affected by this change as they serve only 3 and 4 year olds. Parents are eligible to receive daycare assistance to help pay for daycare. In past years, I have heard teachers and educators say that the nursery school and daycares are preparing our children well to enter kindergarten. I ask the school board to consider my thoughts as they make decisions tonight on the policy and recommendations before them. Was enough research done to even make these type of recommendations? Why are these recommendations being made now? Is there grant money driving these recommendations? Should you not vote on these recommendations before writing and approving a policy? Have the parents and staff of this program been asked how they feel about the possible changes to the program? Will parents at work be willing and able to pay for both public education and daycare? Should the voters of Wakefield have any voice in this decision? Thank you.
What else?
been sitting for a while. So my name's Judy Kutra, and I'm the Bright Beginnings preschool teacher. And just to clarify, I didn't ask either of these ladies to come tonight, nor did I communicate about the meeting with the parents. So as I said, I'm the Bright Beginnings preschool teacher, and just to introduce myself, this is my 3rd year. I'm very proud of what I do, and I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful staff and parents and students and families that I work with. And also just to update the board about the numbers of students I do have in Bright Beginnings. In the AM class, I have 6 children, 3 non-identified and 3 special ed children with 1 more special ed child on the way for 7. In the PM class, I have 8 children, 4 non-identified and 4 special ed children with 1 more special ed child on the way for 9. The district also has a child check clinic planned for October 24th to identify more children who would benefit from Bright Beginnings. What I wanted to talk with you about is my concern about the tuition policy for non-identified students at Bright Beginnings. I have complete respect for the history of the local preschool and daycare centers, and I have no desire to create unfair competition for them. However, I am concerned that with the policy as proposed, families who have no financial resources will have no options for quality preschool. I can think of a number of non-identified students that I've had whose families wouldn't have been able to afford the proposed $250 a month or even half of that. I would ask that before finalizing it, the board discuss ways that the tuition policy can accommodate the most needy families in our district so that they can have options. Yes, we need a tuition policy that's fair for local child care centers, but we also need to be compassionate to families. Thank you for hearing me.
Cool.
Did the school board discuss Ralph's eligibility to bid on the parking lot project during non-public at the last meeting? I know you weren't there.
Yes, we did. It was an error on my judgment, and as soon as it was brought to my attention by the superintendent, this discussion was stopped.
Because you came out of non-public and you made a statement.
I understand that.
So, I mean, you were in non-public for about 15 minutes for one thing listed, a nomination, which would just take a couple of minutes. And then you didn't go in under C, which would have been matters which, if discussed in public, would likely adversely affect the reputation of a person other than a member of the public body.
I understand that.
I was just wondering why your superintendent didn't tell you that as soon as your discussion began.
The discussion was short and brief, and it was brought to our attention, and it was stopped as soon. We did have discussion about the nomination.
I think a 14-minute discussion is more than brief.
Well, I'm sorry.
And one other thing, the meeting that Ralph is going to have with teachers to explain his vision, is that going to be
I don't know when. What
public? Am I going to be able to record that?
What are you talking about?
You should be recording it. I have asked to meet with the teachers and staff.
Personally? Just you?
Well, no, I haven't got a response back from the teachers yet, so if I had got a positive response.
What about all of us? Why would it just be just you?
Thank you, Priscilla. As I was saying, if I had gotten a positive response from the teachers, I would come to the other board members and say what I would like to do. It's not necessarily a vision. I was hoping to create a bridge of communication that seems to have broken down. So the word vision, I wouldn't have used, maybe I had used, but I don't think that that's really an accurate, my hopes was to bring everybody together after it seemed like the teachers were willing to listen and have an open discussion, frank discussion, and once the teachers showed interest, I would have brought it right to the school board and made.
I think you're putting the cart before the horse here, Ralph.
Well, that wouldn't be the first time, would it?
No.
Ralph, that would be something you would discuss as a complete board before you decide to just go off on your own, and you can't, that just makes no sense.
Well, again, I am an individual that thinks it's time to open up a line of communication.
And I understand that, but you're trying to conduct school board business
No, I wasn't
privately
trying to
on this. I mean, I
I'm
don't
not
even know
trying
what
to conduct
transpired,
school-
so if you sent out emails,
No, I didn't send out
or,
emails.
I mean, I don't even know how you did this, but if you,
I made a phone call and I
you
asked.
can't do that, you need to include us all.
Because that means your vision,
Is,
I'm sorry.
that
I'm
means
sorry.
your vision is our vision, and
No.
that's
No.
not necessarily so. I don't even know what your vision is.
Well,
Bonnie,
Bridging communications with teachers is like going in as a group and having an ice cream social, telling them thanks for what you did this year, thanks for coming back, thanks for understanding we might not always do things right, but we're doing the best we can. Your job is not in jeopardy if you come to us and give us your opinion. We value your opinion. But that takes big business to just think that you can go in and
well,
I didn't ask you to be my facilitator between my communicational gap between the teachers and the board. And you just said that you wanted to gap the communication bridge between the teachers and the board. And that means you took it upon yourself to bridge the communicational gap. That means you're acting as a board member solely.
wait a
That's like
minute.
not right.
Wait. Bonnie, when we were down in Milton, I had told you what I would like to do.
You did. And I said, go talk to Michael.
So I talked to Michael.
But why didn't you talk to the rest of us after you talked to Michael? Why would you go directly to the staff?
Because I haven't got an answer whether or not the teachers are interested in having a conversation.
Maybe if it was the whole board, they would be, but just to have a conversation with just you as our facilitator to bridge that gap?
Well, if I had a positive response from the teachers, I would have certainly immediately opened up an invitation to all of the school board members to attend.
But what if our vision isn't your vision? What if
That's-
the consensus doesn't, and then we'd all go into this meeting under the Ralph Fogg vision?
Yeah.
That's not right.
This, again, I'm sorry the word vision was used, but I'm trying to open up lines of communication that are failing.
Well, there was no communication here.
Yeah, you
Right.
Really?
no communication.
Okay, but I wanted to be able to get a positive response from the teachers thinking that we could meet before I even bothered anybody else.
That's not the right.
Yeah.
We all have
Our own methods.
a chain of command
Yeah.
and how things are done.
Yeah.
Ralph,
Was-
what are you thinking sometimes?
Well, I'm thinking that it's time to communicate. And I wanted to get the teachers to say, yeah, we'll talk.
I
we'll
think we
listen."
all agree with that.
Right.
But not solely.
Well, it came about the Thursday after the meeting of the teachers reading the statement.
Yeah.
And I had thought one of the solutions is making an attempt. How can we as a school board ask people to communicate with us when we don't make any attempt to communicate with them? And that's all I was trying to do.
I have
was
to say
set
that-
up an opportunity to communicate.
I have to say that
Share my vision.
we've asked for the staff to come in and talk to us.
Many times.
Many times.
Yes.
And there are times that they choose to come in and speak with us, and there are times that they choose not to.
Yeah.
And so it's their right to pick and choose when they want to come in. But I would have liked to have seen when they knew that we were struggling with the Common Core decision, and I believe that they knew that. I think the whole building knew that the board was struggling with Common Core and what standards to follow. I really would have loved it if the staff would have chosen to come in then, when we knew that we were struggling, and sit and have the conversation that they had last week
Come on, you're stealing my vision.
with us beforehand. And so we give them opportunities, and they have the right to choose when they come and when they don't come. And then we have the choice to sit here and listen to how dissatisfied they might be with the board, and how they might be hurt by some of the decisions we've made and some of the comments that we've made. And I have to say that I don't think we make comments to be derogatory. I think we make comments because maybe we don't have their side of the story, and we ask for their side of the story and their opinion. The teachers are the ones that are implementing the education programs that we're trying to discuss. If they came in, that would be super helpful. But I don't think that it's right for one board member.
I was going to be all-inclusive, but I
Then
really
why
wanted to
didn't
get
you say, what day are you guys available?
I wanted to get a signal back whether or not the meeting could even happen, Bonnie. That's all.
I think,
All right, can we-
once again, on path.
Can we get by,
Priscilla's.
Well, I mean, Steve, does that mean that Ralph's vision meeting on the 8th of October isn't going to happen.
He has a date?
I don't know. I don't have, I don't have a date. No, I don't. I haven't.
Well,
Well, let me see if I'm available.
What is that date?
Ralph's meeting is,
No, 3:30, it's 3:30.
And where is it?
Did we,
I have to say, I heard that. That's the date I heard today.
Oh, my
Just
God.
Paul
That's the date I
said
heard
he didn't say
today.
what-
Okay.
He didn't say what-
when? Honest to
October
goodness
8th at
gracious.
3:30?
Yeah.
I think
Is that not, Michael, is that legal? I mean, is that okay for him to do the,
It's not.
it's not legal to have an open communication?
I can speak
It's
to
not
this.
legal for you to go rogue.
You just went rogue, okay? You can't do
I
that.
can speak to this.
Go ahead, Michael.
Mr. Brown. The individual board member can meet with the staff, obviously with the board knowing of that, to not conduct board business because there isn't a quorum to conduct board business, but to communicate with the staff on their own. Boards in the past, not necessarily here, but have conducted coffee with a school board member. That can be done, to hear from the community what their opinions are. As an individual board member, there's nothing illegal from an individual board member meeting with teachers, meeting with the community, because they're not conducting business. They're just having a conversation with the staff. There aren't any decisions being made, and they have that opportunity. It's as how the board would like for that to happen can be based on your decisions. But there's nothing illegal about an
Okay,
individual
you be
board
first.
member meeting with teachers.
Bob,
I'm just concerned, if he had this meeting and they asked him a bunch of questions, how could he answer those questions?
Well, it was supposed to be building communication.
But
Yeah,
they're gonna sit there and ask you questions.
I would, you would have been there. You, if I had got
Well, I
it.
can't make it on the 8th.
we can't make it on the 8th.
Well,
And we don't even know what your vision is.
I don't even know if I can make it on the 8th, quite honestly, but I didn't know the 8th was the date out there.
I can't,
Bonnie.
if we have issue with you being on Facebook,
Yeah?
bantering back and forth with people,
Mm-hmm.
putting school board stuff on Facebook, and we've already asked you to not intermingle. And, well, I don't know the right word. I'm sitting here just flabbergasted. I can't even. If we have questions with you doing that, why would you independently just go and?
Because I'm trying to step in a positive direction.
Why don't you say, let's have an ice cream social? Let's have a, let's do it as a group. Why would you do that individually?
Because I don't like ice cream.
Okay. It's gonna be a lot of independence going on. I can't believe that.
Bonnie, I brought it by your attention. You told me to ask
All right.
Mr. Tercey. I did that. I didn't get as far as talking to Jerry or getting a response. If there had been a response last week, at the time of that response, you all would have been invited to my
Mrs.
Expert
Colback
is-
just blew out a date. How does she know a date
Yeah,
and
how
your
she-
own board members don't?
She knows a lot. I don't know.
Well,
how do you do it?
and you're worried
How do
about
you do it,
communication,
Priscilla?
Mr. Fogg?
How does Priscilla know, how does she know it?
And you're worried about
Did
communication?
I tell you,
All right,
Priscilla?
come
Did
on,
I tell
come on,
you the
wait.
date?
Kelly, it's all over town.
Oh,
It's all over
Well-
town?
it missed my mailbox.
Mine too.
Bob,
I just have one question. Ralph.
Yeah.
What's your plans of going forward with this?
Well, if there's a date that we can all, attend, I guess. But if there's an opportunity to bridge the communication gap, I'll take every opportunity I get. That's all I can say.
anybody else? Correspondence, cafe services newsletter.
Can I speak to that, Mr. Chair?
Please.
In your packet, you'll see that Cafe Services just provided you just a copy of their September newsletter. I'm sorry, their October newsletter. And these are some of the, just a sample of some of the newsletters that'll go out throughout the year. So just wanted to have that on
Bonnie.
in the packet.
Does Mr. Jones have an SAU 64?
Yes, he does.
Okay. And is it just Brian Jones?
Brian Dot.
Brian dot Jones? When do they give the menu out? Does
It's
that
on the
come out with the
Wakefield
newsletter, or do you have to go
Wakefield
online?
Weekly.
Huh?
The Wakefield Weekly. Get it on.
We don't have a copy of that in our packet. But I would love one.
What are we doing with this? At the end of last school year, there was discussion whether we were going to continue with cafe services or not. And it was basically, my understanding was that it was too late to move in a different direction. So, what is the lunch committee going to do as far as moving at this date? Are we looking at putting this out to bid to possibly go in a different direction so that we have enough time this year, or what do you?
I have to say, I personally wanted to give the kids and the staff a month or so to see what the changes were. I've talked to probably 15 or 20 students. They say the staff is polite, food is great, portion sizes have increased, and they're happy. They like the offerings, a la carte, or whatever it is, that they can get extra food, although there's a fee for it, and some of the parents are quabbling, but if your kid eats 2 lunches, you need to pay for 2 lunches, you know, and they said that the new staff, from what we've heard, the new staff is very welcoming, and the teachers were here last week, and they spoke when you weren't here. The teachers are happy with cafe services at this point in time.
Okay, but just as long as we're not gonna wait too late if it gets to that point again.
Kara is including this in every other packet, monthly packet. She is communicating with Michael on a very close basis. She is very present at this point in time in our school and in Milton School. And I haven't heard any complaints yet.
Well,
I was here for the open house. She was in the kitchen with Brian, I believe, and they were actually preparing it for the next day. I believe that was around 5:30 in the afternoon. So she did say that everything was going great. She said the kids seemed happy. She introduced me to Brian. The only question I do have, which I got a email today on an open bill for my child. I don't know how we could not see this before it actually goes out to the students. It did say that they're allowed 3 lunches before the bill is sent out, and there will be an alternate lunch for the child if the bill is not paid.
And that's against our policy.
We said we weren't going to do that.
But, can I just speak on that? We received the same letter, and when I called the staff, she informed me that no, they do not do alternate lunch. Your child will be fed the same as what you normally, they normally would.
We're saying that letter needs to be changed.
Right.
And it says that they may withhold food in the letter.
It does say that, so.
They may withhold food if
Yes.
payment is not brought forward. So that's like a complete no-no
And they-
in regards
yeah.
to our policy. So can you guys check out that letter?
But I did call, because I was like, what do you mean? No,
That's it.
no, that doesn't make any
What?
And
sense.
that's it, pay your bills.
yeah, if
Yeah,
you
pay
paid
your
your bill,
bills.
board member, you wouldn't have that
It
problem.
was a plan.
It wasn't my.
It was a plan?
Yeah.
You were waiting to see how long it would take to get a letter, weren't you?
It wasn't
And I'll tell you, they're right on top of it.
They are right on top of
Because
it.
last year it went to $70 with me, I believe.
Good in that end.
New business.
Anything, Mr. Chairman? No?
Administration, financial reports.
I'd like to introduce Nathan Castle. He's here. He's working as our business administrator in training. He's currently working for MRI, but he's working full-time in our office, and we're happy to have Nathan on board. He's hit the ground running. He came in right as we're developing our budgets and going through our audit. So there couldn't be wouldn't say a better time to come in as a BA in training,
Push
but
him over
it's
the top
definitely,
already.
it's definitely time to jump in and start learning the ropes. So he's been doing a great job. We're happy to have him on board. And on the, so the financial statement this evening, I'll be reviewing with the board for any questions that you might have, and eventually Nathan will be picking up some of those responsibilities as we move forward. So I would ask if you have any questions on your monthly expense report.
I'm just curious, under transportation, the differences in special transportation drivers, line 51-1 and line 51-200. They're one's 12,666.94 and one's 24,713.82.
Yep.
Why are those so high already?
I can speak to that. You'll see that the $12,666 in special ed transportation drivers, that's is reflective because we have some drivers that are paid 50% regular ed and 50% special ed transportation. You're seeing the overage in the special ed transportation and not so much in the regular transportation driver salary, so there might be some adjustments there.
Okay.
However, when you tally up the total lines, your net comes out to a little bit over $25 over. I'm sorry, $125 over. So it equals out as a net. So it's just a matter of how it's recorded in our system with those drivers that are 50-50.
Okay.
And the 24,713, 24,000. That's just we haven't been reimbursed for our transportation coordinator salary line at this point from the SAU office. Not quite sure when that when that scheduled reimbursement is, but when it does happen, that line will be.
I just want to make sure it does happen.
It happens.
Okay,
throughout
thank you.
It happens throughout the year. Any other questions on the expense report? Okay. Revenues?
At this point in time, have we received all of the state monies that were due to us? And all the ones that we were waiting for?
We have not received them. So once you do, you'll see that there will be adjustments in this revenue report. So we're still, our grants have been approved. That we haven't received those monies to spend at this point. However, you can see the total allotment that would be in the budget once we do receive those.
And do those vary on how they get dispersed?
Nope, we get that total line and we spend it throughout the year. Questions on the grant overview? Again, on that, you'll see it in the encumbrance line is all zeros just because we just recently were approved for the grants, therefore we haven't started encumbering off of those. The ones that have been encumbered are for monies that were rolled over from last year.
Just the...
Michael, with the board making the decision not to take that one grant, have you been able to finagle a way that can still happen for our staff?
No.
No.
Because we didn't budget the additional $14,000 in the operating budget.
Well,
Title II and Title IIA is all regarding that professional development type of
Correct. The board approved the Title IIA monies for professional development. It was the Title I focus school set-aside monies of $14,000 that was not approved, that was going towards professional development.
So that was titled.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Are we still a focus school?
Yes.
So, my vote was that we would allow, because we are a focus school and we're still in need of math assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Can we ask what, I guess I'm asking for you to look at alternative professional development, because as a focus school, we need that professional development. And I guess I'm concerned that our staff might be losing out on something that they could bring back, that all of the teachers that teach math in this building could benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I know how my other board members feel, but I guess I strongly feel that maybe we should look and see what we can do.
Well,
I mean, even if it's,
The total cost was not $14,000 though. The actual cost for them to go to the professional development, if I recall correctly, and I don't have it in front of me, was close to $8,000. The rest of that grant was taken up by miscellaneous items,
mm-hmm.
as far as I recall. So for us to say we just gave away $14,000 to go, it was not. The total cost for that professional development was not $14,000. It was like almost 74 something.
Mhm.
So there's a huge difference there between 14 and 75.
I understand that, like, I didn't necessarily agree
But-
with the $1,000
Right,
for
I mean,
miscellaneous, I
the
understand
miscellaneous
that.
$64 for paper, I'm sorry, you know, we need to be able to, again, the grant thing just kind of bothers me because that's the stuff that we, you know, paper, you know, that type of stuff. So
understand
the
that.
conference itself, if you remember right, was
Mhm.
only $7,400, $7,500.
Mhm.
That's a huge difference.
So to answer your question, Ms. Sear, we're going to work within what we have allocated for monies.
All right.
Any other questions about the grant review? This evening, I provide you a copy of the treasurer's report. Did not make it into your packet prior to us sending the packet out, so that's a copy of that this evening. Any questions you might have? Also in your packet, you have the, basically, your fund balances for their capital reserve. You'll see that this is a full list of the town and the school, and this is just for your information. It's not anything we've ever provided before, but we did provide it in this packet. So you can just look over on the, you know, the name of the trust fund and then the how invested line, and you see where the school trusts are located. And that's what our balances are as of the end of August. So those are good lines to have as we go into the budget development process and start talking about warrants.
well,
Third one down from the top, the Carl Seaman School Scholarship, it looks like a trust set up for, could that get explained to me at some point? It doesn't have to be immediately, maybe later on during the process?
I can explain that now, if you like.
Great.
Each year, the Carl Seaman School Scholarship awards scholarships to high school students, and Those scholarships go to both Wakefield students as well as Milton students, and their high school students that are seniors that are graduating, moving on.
So where this is in the town of Wakefield's capital reserve funds, are there matching funds in Milton? I mean, I can see Carl doing that, but is that the case, or is this one fund just under the watchful eye of our town for both towns?
It's a trust that's been set up by Carl Seaman, obviously, and it's facilitated through his daughter. And there aren't any matching funds coming from the district to that trust, either district.
Well, what I mean is, the town of Wakefield has this one trust, but it takes care of both Milton District and Wakefield District, or is there a similar trust in the Milton District?
Similar trust in Milton.
Great.
So this is strictly Wakefield, this one?
I believe so. I can confirm that, but I know that the trust goes to both districts. So I would think that they would put up two trusts, one for Milton and one for Wakefield.
All right.
That's the financial report.
SAU 64 enrollment.
So as we'll be providing at the beginning of each month is a updated enrollment. You can see where our numbers are at this point. Our total enrollment in pre-K through grade 12 is 627 students.
Got all
427 at the Paul School, 182 at Spalding, 17 at Kingswood, and 1 at Lakeside Academy.
Update on the residency forms?
Update on the residency forms. After several announcements at Spalding, and we have now received an additional residency form. So the next step is we'll receive our, we'll actually get our list from Spalding of our students based on our November billing. That when that list comes in, at that point, we'll begin mailing residency forms, and in hopes of getting them in at that point.
What do you think the change is from last year to this year?
I don't know, Mr. Brown, but we received a little over 20.
Because last year we did so well, right from the start.
I'm not sure.
Well,
Is there a way that we could just coincide the Spalding High School regular paperwork to say, okay, all of your forms that come back with a Wakefield address on them, shoot them to us? I mean, wouldn't that be a way to like get rid of that one piece of paper? I mean, this just seems like this has to be an easier way.
They're not coming back. It's not a matter of receiving them. They're not.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Spalding has very clear guidelines about their return of their paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have 3 days to get your paperwork back at Spalding. And if you don't, you get the phone calls and your child can't attend class or whatever until your paperwork is sent back. I mean, I think it's very strict. So there has to be, like, with the emergency cards and all of that, if that's going back to the high school students anyway, isn't there a way to, like, affiliate on a paper that they have to return? Something that would coincide that they could just send to us, like email it, you know, this student's form came back and it says Wakefield.
And that's, so included in their first day packet, if you will. We could do that. What we're doing right now is we continuously call to find out if anyone has turned in those forms. I would think that the requirements from Spalding for some of that paperwork is more like your emergency forms and so forth they would need. So what you're referring to is emphasizing the importance of the residency form for Wakefield students in your first day packet.
Well, I am, and then I guess one of my other concerns is how is that paperwork getting dispersed? Like, on the first day of school, they all go to their homeroom, you know, and it's a raise your hand if you're a Wakefield student. I'm going to tell you right now, a percentage of our Wakefield students are not going to raise their hand. because they don't want to be identified to be different than any of the other kids, so they might not be getting that paperwork. So I guess I would want to know, how do they hand it out, and what's the expectation of your papers being returned back to school?
The handout is, there's copies available in the guidance office and in the main office at this point. I do feel the biggest bang for the buck that we're going to get when it comes to getting residency forms back is through the mail, because he cut off the process of having to pick up the form or printing the form and so forth. I think that's what's holding us back.
Yeah, because I don't think a lot of times that the kids have time to go to the guidance office or to the office in between classes, especially if they're freshmen and they're new to the building.
Right. So you'll see something I'm thinking about and putting in our budget building process of additional postage for mailing those forms, and just send it right to the residents. And again, it's a matter of whether they turn them in or not. So, Mr. Brown, I'm not sure what the shift was. We didn't do anything different this year that we did last year. We just are not getting them back.
Is it historical? Have we always done a residency form?
As long as I can remember.
Would you, would either of them have a parent assistance? It doesn't matter. Is there a way to get rid of them? Why do we, you know, why can't we just go by what?
You need to verify residency in order to collect tuition. That's the reason for it. But do away with it, you can have all kinds of people going to school without.
Well, I'm just saying, like, could we use, they're not gonna use a false address on their Spalding form, would they?
Never.
Well, I mean, they might, but I guess I believe in good, not necessarily the negative.
The comments that I hear from parents, particularly last year when we were tracking them down, was, why do I have to fill this out every year? I haven't moved I've lived here for 25 years or 30 years, and I have to do this every year. And maybe this year people are just saying,
I'm done.
I'm done. Track me down or mail me one and maybe I'll send it in. So it comes down to time and effort of tracking down residency forms for us, quite honestly. If we have still over 100 that haven't been submitted, and I sent letters last year, three rounds of letters to eventually get all of them in.
And that 100 represents what? 1.2, 1.3 million? It's a lot of money. Well,
is it too much to ask of the guy, the truant officer, to take this task at hand? I mean, he's a likable guy. He can communicate with parents and stuff like that. And is it beyond his job description to ask for residency forms?
No, because he has gone out in the past.
Yeah. And what our truant officer has done is, once we have a handful of people that still aren't complying with the, turning in their form, he goes out to their homes and visits them. Again, it comes, if we still have 100 outstanding, it's a lot of.
It really, I guess I just don't understand if, Spalding gives you a list of the students that they say live in Wakefield. I would think between all the entities that we have, we could look through the list and be like, yep, and then the ones that you have a question on could be the ones that you contact for verification. But really, not.
Sounds simple.
Even ask the bus drivers. I mean, Tim. I mean, some of the families have been there forever, and I understand that you do it, but it seems like there are flaws in the system of how we do it somehow.
So is there a solution? I mean, would a truant officer being asked to do the job, is that a solution or is that another problem?
Michael?
I plan on doing the same process we did last year. Come November, we start sending the letters with the forms, and we just keep tracking them down all the way. And last year, I believe we were down to one come January or so. So I'll just continue with that process at this point.
What about possible? How are we doing there?
I'm not sure.
We're missing about 100 between proof and forms.
that's a quarter.
Good.
Sorry.
Good.
Other than that, Mr. Chair, just have been working on budgets at this point and will be for the next several weeks. So I don't have much to report under SAE 64 right now.
This might be a good time to, if we're gonna do, what was it, $640,339 that we turned back to the town this year?
The estimated fund balance, remember that offsets your tax rate.
Correct, but that's what went back. Is that the final number?
That's not, no, at that time it was estimated. Our final number comes out with our DOE 25 that needs to be submitted. And we're still working on that.
All right, well, because we had, whether we need to, I mean, it's great to be turning back money to the taxpayers, but, you know, at some point, I think we have to look at and say, maybe we need to cut the budget. Because, you know, like I said, it's a great thing that we're turning back this money, but when you start getting up into this 640,000,
And it's climbing every year.
you know, you're actually taxing the people too much to begin with. So, as far as building the budget, I mean, I was thinking about maybe 20% cuts across the board for everyone. Because we got, I mean, it's just too much money to be raising.
Well, what's the percentage, if we're turning back 600,000, what's the percentage of that on the overall operating budget? That'd be
Okay,
a
yeah.
more likely number to. I don't think-
I guess we've already discussed that budget season is coming up and that we want to tighten the reins, and we've had a very verbal discussion about that. I think I think personally what I'm going to do is I'd like to go through like the past 3 or 4 years budget and find out where that extra money is every year and see, and maybe go to those specific criterias that have the overabundance of funds at the end of the year and say, okay, where can we crunch this to make it a more realistic number for the people?
Right.
And I'm hoping 3 years will be enough. It may not be. I might have to do 5, but I think personally that's how I think I'd like to prepare for going into budget season. Just, you know, looking back at the tally sheet and saying, okay, where were the overages and underages and.
The large number from last year, keep in mind, was that we do not have as many students attending Spalding, so we saved in tuition, but we also ended that bond. So we received that interest off that bond, a substantial amount, you know, for the new edition. So it was a big kick.
Oh, okay.
So if you take out what we saved in tuition costs as well as paying off that bond, then you're not looking at, I think it was a little over $100,000 that would be going back without those two. So it's still, you know, if you take those two out of the equation, you're not nearly as high as the 600.
And you'll have a breakdown of all of that information for the board before we go in. Like, I wouldn't have known that we got the interest back from the bond unless you just said it. So it's in the paperwork, but I wouldn't have known. Those are things like before me that I don't necessarily understand completely that I would love to have explained.
Just before, you know, before they get too into building the budget.
I can tell you, Mr. Chair, I'm going in with a lean eye as well.
Nice.
Okay.
With a meat cleaver, did you say?
Lean eye.
A lean eye.
Committee reports, policies first reading. EH, data management.
I can.
No, I'm not reading the whole policy. Go ahead,
I can speak to it, Mr. Brown. So this policy was vetted through the subcommittee and recommended to come to the full board. The addition is number 5 to our current policy, and that's stating the RSA about providing personally identifiable information about a pupil to people outside of, basically I'll read it. No personally identifiable information about a pupil, including name and social security number, shall be collected or maintained by the state in such a manner as to allow such information to be connected to with the unique pupil identifier. Under no circumstance shall personally identifiable information or the unique identifier be provided to any person or entity outside of New Hampshire. Any person who knowingly violates this provision is guilty of a Class B felony and may be subject to involuntary termination of employment. That's the specific wording out of the RSA about providing that information. So that was added to our policy.
I'll make a motion to move that policy forward to a second reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
JFAD.
Speak to that one as well, Mr. Chair.
Michael.
So this is a new policy. This is titled Tuition Expenses for Non-Disabled Preschool Students. The discussion was earlier. This is talking specifically about non-disabled preschool students being tuitioned into our current preschool program. You'll see that we had originally developed this policy around just our non-disabled students, and we put in here that beginning November 1st of 2014, parents may request to tuition their non-disabled students into the preschool based on a tuition rate determined by the board. And then we also put the same wording in there of the lottery system like we currently use for our high school students as well.
I have a question.
No.
I think that in light of what Judy brought up tonight, the lottery, we can't approve this. We have to look into this. The lottery system in a public school, based on what she gave us for research, we need to clarify that. We can't do that.
Do we have to get it approved by the state? We
Early
don't.
childhood programs don't have to be approved. However, I would recommend that we do go through program approval because it's a special ed program. I emailed Jerry a memo that came out last spring around guidelines for least restrictive environment. I don't know if you want him to print it and give it to you. I wasn't prepared tonight, so I didn't bring it. There is a continuum of placement for students with disabilities, and the first placement is least restrictive environment. So this is a memo. It's memo fiscal year 14, memo 15, least restrictive environment. You can pull it up on the DOE website.
Can you email it to me?
Sure.
Just email it to me.
So
I
it
have
speaks
hunt
to
for it.
least restrictive environment, and it speaks to the continuum, and the regulations say that the first placement is a least restrictive environment. So I'll email that to you. That memo was really what drove the preschool task force to start thinking about how we make our own preschool a less restrictive environment than it was.
Well,
I guess in hearing opinions from the public and the parents that already have children in the program kind of brings up the same issues that I had at our last meeting, where we were discussing why more typicals, or non-typical, right?
Non-disabled.
Non-disabled were asking to be in the program. And I think our biggest question was, how were those couple of students chosen? I think that was our original question to the administration, is how are those couple of kids chosen? Is it a friend of a friend that tells you something? And I guess what we wanted, or I guess at least what I wanted, was that I wanted to make sure that the non-disabled children that got into the program, that everyone in the community had a chance to take those 2 spots. And I guess I wanted it, I wanted it to be fair. I didn't want it to be, oh, a bus driver's mother, or my child goes here, or, you know, a best friend of a teacher, or, I wanted it to be known that, like, there were 2 spots available. And how to do that right, and good by everybody. I never want to take anything away from the businesses that are already in town, and you knew that at our last meeting, that really was tearing at my heartstrings, and we told you the history of the program. I guess after hearing a parent's comment, why are we now? Like, why is the task force now choosing to, and least restrictive is one thing, but if you keep it a special education program and not move it to an early childhood program, can you keep, is out of 12, 3? I mean, or I guess why? I guess my big question is, why are we changing the program to go from a special education to an early childhood now? And I understand that it's because we had 7 non-typical or typicals apply, but if they knew they had to pay tuition, would they have applied?
So let me just read to you one section of the memo, if
Okay.
that will help you understand. The Office of Special Education Programs, Educational Environments Definitions, and Least Restrictive Environment Requirements for Children with Disabilities aged 3 through 5. The letter from OSEP, which is attached, and I'll make sure I email that to you, reiterates that the least restrictive environment requirements in Section 612 of the Individuals with Disability Education Act apply to the placement of preschool children with disabilities. The letter confirms that for all children with disabilities, including children aged 3 to 5, separate classes, separate schooling, or other removal of children with disabilities from the regular educational environment may occur only when the nature or severity of the disability of a child is such that education in the regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services cannot be achieved satisfactorily. So the first continuum of placement for a student with a disability is the least restrictive environment. The preschools all over New Hampshire are trying to determine how they go from a special ed program to a least restrictive environment, because that's the direction that we've been given. Preschool students are no different than our regular special ed students, K through 12. The first placement you do is a least restrictive environment. So that's what drove my wanting a task force to think through how we do that.
Mm-hmm.
What drove the tuition policy to me was that we suddenly had 7 students that were non-identified students that wanted to enter our preschool this fall, which didn't leave spots for our special ed students. And it was my understanding or my impression that the community was concerned about that was a competition for the local preschool.
Mm-hmm.
I have no desire to compete with the local preschools. I'd like to partner with the local preschools. But the reason for going to a model that has more typicals or non-identified is because we are required by law to place students in least restrictive environments.
So it's to implement or to facilitate a smooth transition into a regular classroom with a lower ratio of typical to non-typical.
Correct.
Typically, it's 50-50.
In every classroom?
In preschools, they typically try to have...
I meant going forward.
Going forward.
I just have a question.
Because a ratio of 2 to 8 or 2 to 10 is not least restrictive.
Is it mandated that we do this? Are they saying you have to do this to have this program?
I'd have to go back and look.
Can you check?
Special ed law mandates least restrictive environment.
I understand that, but what if we kept the program we had? Can we keep the program we have? I mean, do we have to change?
I would think so.
Can you check that?
I would say that you would still need to have a better ratio of non-disabled and disabled.
And if you kept the program the way it is, would that be best practice?
No, not in my opinion.
Well, I think we need to get some more information then.
Well, without the end, it's my understanding also is that it's not best practice.
Well, and I understand that too, and I agree with you, and I want to do what's best practice, but in listening to some of the comments that were made here tonight and listening to some of what was read, I think we need to get that information, we need to go over it, we need to be informed, and if we don't have to change it, and the parents think it's in the best interest to try to keep it to what we have, I'm not saying everybody will vote for that, but I think that we all need to take a hard look before we decide to make any decisions.
Can we ask what other models, can we ask for models of what other districts do for their preschools and how they do their tuition, like how they pick their students, their typicals, and how, and is there a tuition, and just give us more information on, so that we know that we're making a good decision for the kids and the parents.
I can tell you two models that I know of exact now.
Okay.
SAU 44, which is Northwood, Nottingham, and Stratford.
SAU 44?
Was a special ed preschool program, and they moved into the direction of an early childhood education program last year. I believe this is the first year. Their tuition is first come, first served. So they asked for a letter of interest that's due by April 1st, I believe. And the first 5, I don't know that number exact, but the first number that they have set are the students that are the non-identified. Barrington is an early childhood center.
Is that with tuition or without tuition?
SAU 44 has a tuition.
And what's the rate?
$50 a day.
$50 a day?
Yes, because their students go different. They identify, they have a 2-day-a-week, 3-day-a-week, and a 4-day-a-week option.
All day?
Nope, a morning and an afternoon.
At $50 a day?
Yeah. Barrington is $250 for tuition.
What district is that?
Barrington.
SAU 72, I believe.
And their tuition is $250 flat rate. It's a 4-day-a-week program, morning and afternoon. I can't tell you how they, I'll have to find out what their policy is in terms of how they accept their non-identified. I feel like what, to me, is within the best interest of the preschool is to allow the task force to continue to do the research and come back to you with recommendations once we've done that.
74, Bonnie.
74? I guess I'm going to make a motion to table this policy because it says that tuition will begin as of November 1st. I don't think we have enough information to do that at this point in time.
Nope.
I'll second the motion.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment. Judy?
For the board's information, you can go on Code of Administrative Rules 1100 is all special education. And there's a listing here. Were you referring to the federal law that requires a least restrictive environment?
The memo I was referring to was from the New Hampshire Department of Ed, but it was as a result of federal law.
Okay, federal law was changed in 2008. And there's, in that Ed 1100, there's a table. And preschool children with disabilities shall be educated in a setting that is appropriate to implement the IEP. Preschool children with disabilities may receive their special education program at any of the settings listed in Table 1100. There's a community early childhood setting, And that could be, I suppose, the Paul School's own early childhood program, or they could tuition them to Hazel McBrien Nursery School and the services be received there. The next least restrictive is the home setting. And the next one is early childhood special education, partially integrated setting, which is what I would call Bright Beginnings. And then there goes on to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more settings after that. So the Bright Beginnings, this program is, according to this list, one of the third on the list after home and after community learning center. And then there's a continuum of alternate placements. And that starts out again with the early childhood program, the home, and the special education program being the top 3. Preschool children with disabilities may receive their special education program in any of the environments. So that is one in the top tier of those options that's available. And I would urge any of the board members to go on their computer, read the Code of Administrative Rules, 1100. You could probably get all your questions answered.
Although the New Hampshire rules and regulations have been amended since 2008. I'm not sure what the amendments were for, but I believe that's what the memo was.
Yes, and if you go on your computer, they'll tell you these are effective as of such a date, and they were current when I pulled them off last week.
So,
Is this a recommended policy from the New Hampshire School Board Association, or is this something that you guys came up with?
It's drafted here. Local policy.
Local policy? Did you run this by the attorneys? No? Okay. Something else I was wondering about from a previous meeting. I remember the special ed director saying that she had no idea that there were 5 typicals and 2 special needs kids in Bright Beginnings, that she hadn't found out until just recently. This was a couple meetings ago. And so that made me wonder, who decides who's going to be in the Bright Beginnings classroom?
I believe that's why the board asked me to come up with a procedure, because I was informed in, I believe it was June, that we had 7 non-identified students.
Why wouldn't you be the one that determines who enters that program? Who does determine it?
I have no idea. The procedures were developed by the former special ed director, and that's, I think, why the board asked me to develop a procedure. So that's why we formed the task force.
If I may, how it's determined whether a student comes into Bright Beginnings depends on the student. If they have special needs and they're identified through the eligibility process, whether that's through child find or from early supports and services, then they enter as a child with special needs. If they enter as a non-disabled or a non-identified student, we have saved a certain number of slots for that. Right now, my numbers have an equal 50-50 ratio. Sometimes a non-disabled student will enter, and how I've done that over the last 2 years is I've tried to be as fair as I can. Whoever I get a phone call from first, I don't show any preference or any favoritism. And there are times when a non-disabled student will enter, and just through the process of working with them, it becomes apparent that they might have special needs, and then they become eligible and then identified. So hopefully that answers some confusion.
So
I don't understand why the teacher would make that determination. I mean, a teacher doesn't decide what classroom a child's going in regular ed. It's a compilation of all the teachers in that group deciding what's best for the child. I guess I always thought the special ed director made that determination.
You'd have to ask the former special ed director.
I believe he did.
He did make that determination?
He did,
what
Right.
All right, I'll make a motion to go into non-public.
Can I have one more comment, Steve?
Pardon me?
Can I have one more comment?
Good.
It's a different topic. I guess I'm sitting here just kind of confused. Last week, at last week's meeting, Bonnie spoke about board members breaking the policy about visitations in school, and said that the board is dealing with it. I guess I want to know how the board's dealing with it and when they're dealing with it. And tonight, we spoke about Ralph's Facebook comments, and you've dealt with that with him. And you've spoken, Bonnie, thank you for being honest and say you've spoken on public regarding the conflict of interest policy. I appreciate the honesty. But when do these other conversations take place? If you're speaking to a board member about these things, why is Mr. Fogg being afforded these discussions in non-public? He's a school board member. He doesn't have the right to that. Under the 91A laws, a board member, you can't discuss something a board member did in non-public.
I'm going to be honest, other than last week, the board breaking the policies, it doesn't get discussed. Last week was the first time it was brought up.
Okay, because you said that it was, I guess that's what I'm confused. You said that...
In the past, we've personally pulled Mr. Fogg aside and said,
all right.
I don't necessarily...
I'm just wondering when all these
it's a personal,
okay.
it's a two-on-two, it's a one-on-one confrontation. If we have an issue with one another, we don't necessarily... I talk to the person directly. I'm not going to go on Facebook and ask questions. I'm going to go to Ralph and say, Ralph, we need to talk about this because I don't see clearly eye to eye with you. Explain your position and I'm going to explain mine. Or if Bob and I have an issue, we'll have a phone call and say, you know, what's going on. The fact that...
But if a board member, you know that a board member is breaking a policy.
The first time I brought it up was last week.
Yeah, you said that last week that the board is dealing with it. So when you said the board is dealing with it, I'm wondering, well, when did the board deal with it?
We haven't yet because it hasn't come up for discussion again. We haven't gotten there yet. And
but you understand that there's a public discussion. It's not something that...
I did not know that until last week, and I was told that 2 weeks ago. I was told that had to be brought up in public, and I didn't know. And now, and I read the policies, but there are times that you get upset about something.
Well, that's a law. That's 91A law.
It's a law.
School board
so
member is not allowed.
I'm going to be honest. The first time I was really disheartened about, we made a very specific policy about board members coming into the building to protect the teachers from feeling combative or threatened. That's not anything I want. And the board agreed and just passed a policy in the springtime after elections that we would always call the superintendent before coming in. And 2 of our board members broke that policy and entered into professional development. And the first time it was brought up was last week. Mr. Brown was not here to defend himself, and we thought that it would be best if he was here to defend himself. I don't know if they're not aware of the policy that they approved. Mr. Fogg said that he knew that he broke it, but yet we're looking at one board member was asked to leave and another one wasn't. So we need to deal with that. We need to discuss that, and I don't know, other than bringing it up, how to deal with it. You know, I think Mr. Brown knows that he broke a policy, but yet he thinks that it's his prerogative to be able to go in. If he would have told Mr. Tercey that he was going in and Mr. Tercey followed the chain and went to Jerry and he walked in, I don't know if I'd have an issue. But I do have an issue that he went in unspoken, like
well, no, that's not
unannounced.
That is not accurate.
Okay, then that's why you're here, to...
That is not accurate, because I had a good half-hour discussion with Mr. Gregoire, and I notified Mr. Gregoire what my intention of being there that day. So it is not accurate to say I went in unannounced.
Well, our policy says that you contact the
okay, but you just stated I went in unannounced. That is not accurate.
That was the impression that we were given. If it's not accurate, I apologize.
Well, I just clarified that for you.
That's great. If the policy was still broken.
Okay. Want to slap my wrist? You know,
Policies are put in place for a reason.
I'd like to have, probably that the comment, the first public comment, probably be put in as a matter of the record, because there was a mention of this exact thing in that public comment. As far as, you know, maybe Common Core being pushed through with or without the board's approval?
Here it is. Mary asked me to give it to the secretary to be put in the record.
So, you know, there's that situation also.
So is that why you chose to go to that professional development meeting?
I want to...
I guess we just want to know, I mean, we understand that all of us have a right to go,
Yeah, you do.
but we need to just follow what we said, and
Well, you know, the difference between the superintendent and the principal,
it's huge.
not really.
It's a phone call.
I have a question.
Well,
Did you just say that one was asked to leave and the other was allowed?
mhm.
Did somebody make a phone call? Did somebody,
That's what we need to find out.
how did they both break policy, but one was asked to leave and one got to stay? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Mr. Fogg.
Mr. Fogg.
I went to the thing about the brainology, walked into the modular during the presentation, unannounced, and I didn't ask anybody to do that. I wasn't aware of the policy until after the discussion came about Mr. Brown. I could not say that I didn't violate the policy. I had to say I violated the policy.
Were you asked to leave?
No, I wasn't asked to leave, but I wasn't thinking that the policy existed or prohibited people from walking in. I thought it was in the best interest of the school board to understand things. I went in there to try to get the paperwork on it. I sat for maybe 10 minutes. I listened. There was a short discussion when I first got there, and then everybody was working on preparing 3 or 4 items for discussion. And as I was looking at my stuff, I was like, I'm out of here. So I left myself. But I wasn't aware that I was violating a policy, but I certainly admitted that now that the policy is in my face, being brought to my attention, yes, I violated it.
Was there building administration in that meeting?
Just the curriculum coordinator as far as administration. And actually, you know, I felt welcome, and I was given, you know, the same brochure, the same folder full of information that I thought everybody else in the room had. So, you know, I can't say I didn't violate policy. I wouldn't try to say it. I wasn't aware of the policy when I went in there. I went in there as a school board member interested in knowing what's going on and being part of the process.
But now you know the policy, it's just a phone call.
I understand that.
And okay, now, did you have this, were you welcome at the meeting you went to?
No, I was ushered out.
Was it the same meeting?
No, it was the afternoon. Apparently, Mr. Fogg went to the morning and I went to the afternoon.
Mr. Tracy, can you speak?
Yeah.
Michael?
So I received a phone call from Mr. Gregoire that Mr. Brown was sitting in the professional development. And so I came up here and asked Mr. Brown to come out so I could speak with him. I didn't usher Mr. Brown out, nor did I ask him to leave. I asked him to step out so I could talk to him specifically about the policy. And so there wasn't an usher out, there wasn't a request to leave the premises or leave the meeting. It was can we step outside and talk? That's what that was. So those
Step
two things.
outside to talk to get me out of the meeting.
No, to talk and make you aware of the policy.
So if there was as there was a violation of the policy, I think that there's some remorse, there's some or disbelief, I guess, in my opinion. I think that at times we want to be well informed when we take the steps, but uninformed of a policy. Well, it's our duty to know the policies. I agree with that. I can't argue.
Yeah, but see, it all goes back to, and the superintendent has said it how many times?
I don't know. What did he say?
Trust. I want to read the letter from the public comment?
No, you don't have to.
I mean, it's an issue. So if it's an issue, and then you're going to present yourself that you want to go in and check out a particular professional development, okay, you know, it goes right back to the trust thing. They want to, we're expected to trust them, but apparently that's not reciprocal. I knew of the policy, and there was a reason why I didn't make that call. And that's why I went and had a discussion with Mr. Gregoire. Mr. Gregoire told me to go right ahead. But it wasn't unannounced.
But then Mr. Gregoire had to make the choice to call
Yes,
higher ups to have you removed to make you acknowledge the policy.
Well, you want to read the letter again?
I just think that this is kind of
picky uni.
You broke the policy, plain and simple. But you knew about the policy? Why didn't you say, Mr. Brown, you're really not supposed to do that?
I thought that was more Mr. Percy's place to have that conversation.
Oh my God.
Which is correct. There's a chain of command, Norma.
No, and I totally understand
the
that.
teachers asked us to come here.
Right, the teachers ask us to come, and then
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well,
It's a policy, you broke it, don't do it anymore.
I sat at a desk, I didn't say a word, all I was doing is reading information. Period.
But that could be misconstrued by some of the teachers that may be intimidated by you, or Ralph, or me, or Bob, or Norma.
Well,
but what if he did the right thing and called and everything, and he was invited into the meeting? Are they still intimidated by him?
Right.
They might be, but he's...
Are they going to tell him no if he calls and asks?
It's the same thing, Bonnie. It's either he's there unannounced or he's there announced. He's still there.
Right, he's still there.
I'm sure that they're going to be intimidated if he's there, announced or unannounced.
He can go to every single one of them now. Just make the phone call.
so I'll make one phone call, I'm going to be at every single one. Beauty. Takes care of that. All right, I'll make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A 3, 2A, B, and J.
More discussion on that?
Nominations, legal, and negotiations. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion only. It seemed like there may be more discussion on the previous topic. So before we go into non-public, let's make sure there's nothing else that we haven't addressed. Because we don't want our behavior discussed in non-public ever again.
It won't be. Not when I'm here.
And I did want to clarify for Judy that
You can't tell me that's a catch-22.
It is a catch-22.
It's a catch-22 because you're going to say that you're going to go to every professional development.
No, he can't.
He
He
can.
can.
You can. And I want the staff to be intimidated.
But he's allowed to go.
He is allowed to go, but it's like just, it's catch-22.
Again, the teachers came up and asked us
And asked us to go.
come into school.
So
It's not about the, I just want to know what is being, we're spending a lot of money. And there's a lot of things being brought into this building that we have no idea what's coming in.
I have a question.
Mrs. Joy.
Okay. You guys attended the Brainology,
Brainworks. Or
Brainworks, how to make yourself smarter thing. Is that part of the curriculum at the Paul School?
It's not written into the curriculum. It's another resource
Okay.
that teachers can use.
Okay, and
At
I
their
don't know,
discretion.
and I'm gonna look this up, and I don't know the exact policy myself. But stuff that's brought into the school to teach the children or to help the children to develop, isn't that supposed to go before the board before it's introduced?
If it is a major revision to a curriculum, under your
Okay.
curriculum development
But it's my
policy-
understanding that any program is supposed to be brought before the board for approval before it is implemented in the schools. In this case, I don't think it was done.
And
Correct me if
why
I'm...
is it not?
Hush.
Why is it
I'm not
not?
done
She's not
speaking.
done.
Why is it not
Hush.
being done?
In this case, this was not brought before the board. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And how did we find out about this program? Apparently Steve crashed the party. So I guess that comes down to trust, Bonnie.
I know.
So it is a catch-22 because if we can't trust that they're going to bring it forward to us, then how can you not expect one of us to find out about it? Because this is a small community. I talk to teachers. You talk to teachers. We're friends with some of these teachers in the community. The people in the audience, they all talk. How do you expect us not to find out? I guess that's my pet peeve right now because we're calling Steve and Ralph on the carpet for breaking policy, which should be done because what you guys did was wrong. But you guys are having professional development centered around a program that we never even authorized. So please explain that.
So to give me clarification then on how you're defining a program. And
That's
would
what I'm
like
asking you.
Let's say we bring in we bring a series of leveled readers into our primary grades. That is part of a canned program that has 10 books in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you would like to see come in front of the board for approval? So
It
approving
should.
all of our resources that come in for teacher instruction,
No.
regardless of the size and the impact on the students. Just let me know, because I'll be more than happy to do that in
And
the
that's-
sense that
But
we'll
this is,
we'll
okay,
continue
but
to
this
bring every minor
program
in.
that you guys are bringing in, and I'm not going to quibble with you about this,
It's fine.
but this program that you're bringing in, how many hours are these children going to be sitting in front of a computer doing this program?
If I remember correctly, I think it was somewhere in the range of 45 hours, I thought.
Right, broken up over
16 weeks.
16 weeks. So
Course of the year.
that's a pretty significant program.
Over the course of the year.
Okay, it's still a pretty significant program, and it should have been brought before the board. So this is, I think this is part of the whole trust issue, because he's hearing stuff, she's hearing stuff, he's in his own world. We're all hearing stuff, but you guys aren't bringing it in front of us, so if he had called that day, would you have had a reason why he couldn't come?
No,
Because
no,
Bonnie's saying the
understand.
teachers are going to be intimidated if Mr. Brown shows up.
I wouldn't have
I
a
don't
reason.
understand this. So, yeah, you guys broke policy as well. So everybody needs to start adhering to their own to everybody's rules. We're supposed to work together, and this just isn't working. Sorry.
So, Mr. Brown,
Michael.
so I'd like to know which policy you felt that was broken, please.
Well, are you guys supposed to be bringing programs in front of the school board before they are implemented into the school?
If it falls under curriculum development, yes.
But any other program, you guys can just put whatever you guys want in here?
I'm curious about the policy, because I'd like to
Well,
see that wording.
that's what
so
I'm
I'll
saying.
look into
I
that.
myself
If
said-
I'm being accused of breaking
No.
policy, I'd like to know what
I
that
myself
policy is.
said I'm not sure of exactly what it is. What I'm saying is it's a program, and it's my understanding that we are supposed to approve any program brought in here. That's what I'm saying. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm saying if we all broke policy, we all broke policy. But this needs to stop. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I just need clarification because we purchase programs all the time. So for instance, I have there's a special ed program, Linda Mood Bell special ed program. It's a program that's used with some kids, not all kids.
That was brought before the school board years ago. The Linda Mood method's been, it was part of, it got introduced to us.
Presentation, but I mean, if I'm purchasing that program.
That was
that's
already
supposed to be
approved by a
brought-
school board years ago.
because there's so many programs that are purchased in our school.
Just
that-
an example, Linda Mood Bell's just
Yeah,
an
Linda Mood
example.
Bell's
Right,
But
but
I'm
it was
saying
already
that
approved, it was
I
approved by a
understand that,
school
but I'm
board.
just saying that's just an example of a program, not
Because that
the
was
breadth
not-
of programs.
So saying others are being
The
purchased.
Linda Mood method was actually approved for your whole kindergarten and first grade. And they went from phonovisual phonics to the Linda Mood method. And then they went back to something else. And my children are actually proof of 3 different phonics programs in 3 different years.
Good
So,
example.
it's bad. But that is one of the
But that's
programs.
what I mean,
it
it's,
was-
as a good example is, there are so many phonics programs, and each child benefits from a different program, so to bring all programs to the board.
How about just like a,
How about
you know,
this
this
is
is
what
what's
we're
in the
doing?
building. Just so you know, this is what's in the building. Even if we have to do our own private work to like get a little background check on it, but like I loved Nate's presentation last
That
week.
was a good presentation.
But I would have loved to know that was, this is something we're going to introduce to the kids. This is something we're going to introduce to the staff. It's going to be great, and this is how it's going to work. I would have loved, it's like knowing it after the fact.
Exactly.
And that just,
We say that too many times.
I know, it's like we've said it so often.
Right.
And I think the policy, looking at that policy would be a great idea to get a better definition of
Like,
the
that's
trade.
what I was
Right.
gonna say.
I don't
We
know
need
what
to
the
look at-
policy
We need
number
to
is.
find the policy.
And go over and make some changes as necessary, because the school board needs to know what's coming into this building.
Right, I mean,
We have to know. And when,
if the parents ask, what do we, I mean, if we don't know, how are we gonna tell them?
None of us want to be breaking policy, so I think looking at this policy, get a definition of what it means would be great for all of us.
It's policy IGD. It is policy of the board that no basic course of study shall be eliminated or new courses added without approval of the board, nor shall any significant alteration or reduction of a course of study be made without such approval. New programs and courses of study shall not be added until acted upon by the board until the meeting following their presentation by the administration, so that the board members may have the opportunity to review the proposed program.
And, may I, Mr. Chair?
Michael,
And in my definition of a program would be if we were bringing in a foreign language program, a new art program, a new reading program that's different than what we're currently using, compared to additional resources in the classroom. So a program is a substantial alteration of what we currently have in our course of studies, compared to resources that are being used in the classroom. So again, it comes down to interpretation of the term program. So that's why I don't feel there was any breach of a policy.
And I guess I would just say, because it offers such an advanced tool to help these kids combat inability to say, hey, I can do this. The ability to handle bullying in their own atmosphere, ability to handle home situations on their own. I would think that that's a huge program, because it's going to enable those kids to do so much better in class. I really wish you would have brought that. That's a program that I would have been, if you had new readers, I've already read the readers with my own children. I know those readers, and I mean, unless there's something, but this is a program. It's not readers being, it's not in addition to the program we've already approved. It was a new program.
Something totally new.
I mean, to have the kids come home and be like, oh.
I would only ask Judy to repeat what you just said, only because you had some experience, and I didn't quite hear what.
Brainology would be a program.
Yep.
The
program.
Tools for it, maybe not, but like when our reading curriculum came in, the math curriculum, if you remember, I said, why isn't the board looking at it? And you had them bring it in and present it. Any
Reading first was
bullying,
brought
we had
in.
some bullying programs. I mean, even things like when they're gonna have a bullying presentation, to let us know ahead. Because sometimes we'd like to go in and see those.
Right.
I personally think a school board member should be able to walk in this building anytime they want. But if that's what you've set for a policy, fine.
We did that because we had members that were intimidating. And teachers were coming to us and saying, I'm going to lose my job. I don't feel safe when they're in the room. I don't know why they stand outside my door and take notes.
That's sad.
It's sad, but that's what was happening. And so we had no choice.
I used to enjoy coming in, and several times I was invited to come in, and I enjoyed coming in for the different presentations and award assemblies and,
I
I
don't
can't
think,
say I ever attended the professional development, because that was always brought to us first.
Right.
Gail always brought those things to us, Jay always brought those things to us. So we knew ahead of time it was coming. If it was something we wanted to attend, we could. Not,
We did the show dismissed for one day dressed as
Cat in
Tin
the
One
Hat.
and the Cat in the Hat.
Yeah, I saw those pictures.
Lovely.
I'm a cat.
Okay.
Girls, those pictures are online, just so you know.
Now we can move the
Yes,
motion.
if you go online and you type in Cat in the Hat, because I was doing something one day, and you go on images, you two are online.
Oh, no.
Google.
Oh, I hate my picture.
All right.
It was cute.
Motion in a second to go into non-public. All in favor?
Fog eye.
Brown, yes.
Sarah,
Let I.
Joy, I.
Thank you for coming.